Welcome back to the program. So today we had some breaking news at one of Trump's golf courses with another armed individual casing out the joint, basically. And President Trump was supposed to make an appearance at this golf course in California in the next few days. So let's kind of break down what we know so far. A heavily armed suspect was arrested at the Trump National Golf Course ahead of President Trump's visit. The man was carrying firearms, including hollow point ammunition. Now, the only reason you would have hollow point ammunition is that if you're going to shoot at a target, whether it be an animal, whether it be a human, whether it be anything, that bullet is going to hit and explode, okay? Normal bullets go in, they stay, and they go into their target, and they don't spread out, shrapnel and all that. Hollow points are supposed to go in and blow out everything, okay? So now you know that this person meant business, and they were going to try to get to President Trump. President Trump arrived to Southern California Tuesday for an RNC event. An armed suspect identified as Janine John TL. Haven't seen any pictures, but if their first name is Janine and they're saying that they're a man, you may want to put two to two together here. Probably one of the SMAs, as I like to call them, right? Sexual mutilation advocates. Was arrested at Trump National Golf Course after monitoring security preparations ahead of President Trump's visit. Police said that they later recovered an illegally modified AR-style rifle, body armor, high-capacity magazines, ammunition, and notebooks containing, quote, concerning comments from his home. The Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department said that the male suspect, identified as 38-year-old Janine TL, was observed walking around the golf course, taking photos and monitoring the security apparatus. This happened on Sunday, August 2nd, around 3:30 in the afternoon. Deputies assigned to the Lomita Sheriff's Station responded to President Trump National Golf Course in Rancho Palo Verde after plainclothes federal agents reported a, quote, suspicious individual on the property. The individual was observed walking through the golf course grounds, taking photographs and video, and appearing to monitor the security planning activities, according to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. Lomita Sheriff's deputies contacted the individual, an adult male, identified 38-year-old Janine John TL from Downey, California, and determined that he was being investigated for robbery by the El Segundo Police Department. Deputies detained TL and located his vehicle in a parking lot at that golf course. During the detention, deputies recovered a 16-round magazine containing hollow point ammunition from TL's pants pocket. Deputies subsequently searched TL's vehicle and recovered a loaded pistol with a round chambered, along with additional loaded magazines containing hollow point ammunition. TL was arrested for carrying a concealed firearm, possession of armor-piercing prohibited ammunition, and a few others. During the search, investigators also recovered, again, an illegally modified AR platform rifle, a 1911 .45 caliber pistol, an AR platform upper receiver, body armor, high-capacity magazines, bulk pistol and rifle ammunition, multiple notebooks containing, quote, concerning statements. Two radio signal devices. Two radio signal devices. Well, what do you need that for? Perhaps there's somebody else involved in this. Maybe it's not just one suspect and there's somebody else out there as well. Hopefully they're going to find that out and do more investigations. First Assistant U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley said that the FBI is reviewing the evidence and will provide more information when possible. So there you go. Once again, some sick bastard trying to target President Trump. Unreal. Now, let's talk about some good news. As I said yesterday in the show on Jeff Carreras, Ringside Politics, I alluded to the fact that Alabama could be next. Well, I'm here to tell you it is true. They are next. They now have made number 4. So now you have Florida, you have Texas, you have Louisiana, and you have Alabama. Okay. Now, according to my sources, I am hearing that Missouri could be dropping, maybe even by the end of this week. We'll have to see. So that would make 5, okay, since the diary testimony and the 111, Fifth Amendment bullshit, right? So that would make 5 already. If we can get and double that number to 10, I think there's a very good possibility that he and his cohorts, co-conspirators, Burks, the rest of them, can actually be prosecuted. But it's up to you. It's up to MAGA, America First conservatives to do what you need to do. And that is to contact the attorney generals in your states and demand that they take action, just like Florida did and Texas did, Louisiana did, Alabama has done. Okay? 4 states is not enough. We need to get that number to at least 10 in order to make something really happen here where these people are going to be held accountable. Because the more states, then you have a class action to start, right? And then you have multiple states adjoin. And from there, they'll hire more and more prosecutors, they'll hire more lawyers, and it'll be a multi-state level prosecution of Fauci and his cohorts and co-conspirators. That's why I am pushing for this. That is why I put out the thing with the Republican names and numbers and email addresses and phone numbers and all that good stuff. So continue to look at that and continue to call, because you are making a difference. Don't think that you're not. Don't think that you're just out in the ether and nothing's happening. Clearly, since we started the campaign, Louisiana and Alabama have come aboard. And like I said, I'm hearing Missouri could be next. So keep that in mind. Now, the other thing, and this is really kind of interesting. So with all this craziness, all this, weird talk about the WNBA and all these woke coaches talking about how they want men in sports fighting against women and competing against women. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court took care of that in June. They banned it. Yet they're wearing T-shirts and they're making statements about how they want men to compete with these butch lesbians and all that, right? So I went to X yesterday, and here's what I wrote in Bernstein lingo. I said, I'm done. Let's give these radical carpet munchers exactly what they want. I propose that the @WNBA has a trans male week where only men play these butch lesbians a total of just 1 week. Let's call them out on their virtue signaling garbage. Ladies, and I use that term lightly, of the WNBA, let's see how many elbows to the jaw that you can all withstand. How many times will you get up after being trampled on by large men? How many noses will you all break from being hard checked? Will any of you be able to avoid a visit to the nearest emergency room after a 6'10", 295-pound male dunks on you? And then I said, you want to have, quote, men in your sport? Well, I'd rather watch synchronized swimming from Frog Balls, Kentucky, or peel my eyes out with an olive fork than watch even 30 seconds of it, but I digress. Then I say, you all deserve the equality that you seek. Hell, you can even have J.K. Rowling as the referee. Now, I sent that on yesterday at, I don't know what time, 4:14 p.m. on the 3rd, okay? Just today, and maybe late last night, but today, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton from the Clay and Buck Sexton show. Clay Travis, I'm not saying he was, took my idea or anything like that, because his idea is even crazier, really. But this is what he said, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely love what he said. Listen to this.
I've got 2 aggressive moves that I am undertaking here. And I'm 100% serious about this. And I'm going to share both of them with you. First of all, I will buy a WNBA expansion franchise as the primary owner of that franchise. I will bring them to my hometown where I do this show from, Nashville, Tennessee. I will pledge that 100% of my team will be trans. That will be men pretending to be women. Our entire
I said they should just do it for 1 week. He's talking about buying an entire team. I love this. Listen.
coaching staff will be trans. That is men pretending to be women. We will not lose a single game. There are probably some games, Buck, where we will not even give up a single point. I will call this team the Nashville Balls, and I will become a dynastic sports owner.
I like the Nashville Trans Testicles better, or the Nashville Testicles better, but Balls is fine too.
I will own a WNBA franchise. I will buy it, and I will play only men who identify as women. We'll wear wigs. We'll run around, do whatever we need to do to be officially classified as identifying as women. This is what they're now saying is permitted. I will do it. I will buy a team. I'll put my money where my mouth is. Secondly, before, Buck, you remember, I offered $1 million if the WNBA champ, which is right now the Las Vegas Aces, I believe, if they would play a boys high school state championship team of my choosing, I would give $1 million to the winning team. Buck, I will now give $10 million to the winning team. We will put this on pay-per-view. We will send all the profits, of which there will be probably tens of millions, to Tunnel to Towers, T2T.org, our good friends there, for mortgage-free homes for veterans, the families of veterans, first responders, police, people who have lost their lives defending this country. $10 million. I will wheel it out. I don't even know how much space $10 million. We'll dump truck it out, put it in the arena. A boys' high school team will get $10 million if they win the WNBA. They say that they're underpaid. They say that they're as good as men. Let's decide it once and for all. And I think you have to be hyperbolic to respond to the absurdity here, because if you are not, then they will just continue to chirp. They'll continue to talk. So I think you have to put money behind your words. I am taking them at their words, and I will put $10 million, boys high school team, state champ of my choice, versus WNBA, and or I will also purchase a WNBA franchise and only play men who identify as women, and that is the trans community in the WNBA. I doubt that the WNBA will respond to this, but this is real money on the table in a significant way.
Wow. Unreal. First of all, I guess it pays very well to not be censored. Where's this guy getting all this money from? Holy cow. $10 million that he's going to just give out, and then he wants to buy a WNBA team? That's got to be millions and millions of dollars. So I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing something right, and I'm not. But anyway, so they're not going to take him up on it. They're not. They're going to ignore him completely because they're too wrapped up in their little trans bubble, right? Or SMAs, as I call them now, sexual mutilation advocates, okay? That's what we want to call them. And so they're too wrapped up in that, and they're virtue signaling, right? They don't really, some of them don't even really believe what they're saying. They just do it because it makes them feel good, or they think they're going to win woke points or some garbage, because obviously no one's watching, unless you're watching maybe, Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, the only good things that are part of the entire league, right? I'm not. I don't like any of this stuff. But it's interesting that he's doing that. And you know what? I'm kind of glad that he is. I am. I'm glad that he is because, these people need to be put in their place. Now, do I want a trans league? No, of course not. Do I want a trans WNBA team? Definitely not. But if he has to do it to prove a point, to wake everybody else up, well, then hey, do what you got to do. You know what I mean? So anyway, I thought those were some pretty interesting stories there. Where are we at time-wise? 15 minutes or so? Okay. And then I wanted to cover this as well. This is really crazy. So the left-wing media prostitutes, right? You've got these horrific fires in Spokane, Washington going on, right? And of course, everybody, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSLSD, MS Now, all of them climate change, 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 right? They didn't even bother to think that it could be anything else other than their propaganda narrative of climate change. Well, it turns out that it wasn't climate change after all. It was arson, okay? It was arson. And it gets even better because the person who was responsible for this, it's unreal. Let me just point this out real quick. So I actually put this out when I read this story, and here's what I said about this craziness. And it is crazy. And I wrote this: how liberal activist judges, a soft on crime prison system, leniency, and climate change propaganda have all led to Spokane, Washington homeowners losing 700 homes. The Spokane fire was not climate change, which doesn't exist anyway. It was arson. Every single prostitute network, as I mentioned earlier, didn't even bother to suggest that even as a possibility. And of course, without proof, they all pushed the climate change narrative. And then I put at CNN, at MS Now, at ABC, at NBC, all should lose their broadcasting licenses right now, today, tonight. And then I put at Brendan Carr, at FCC. This level of lying, deceitfulness, and propaganda must be severely punished. And the ass clown judge in Arizona, the warden at the jail, and the clemency board who issued this psycho early parole all need to be charged with accessory to arson. Once the people entrenched in the system have liability for their idiotic and dangerous actions, there will be accountability. And these horrifying chains of event will hopefully be a thing of the past. Now, what am I referring to? Well, I'm referring to the fact that this person who was arrested for this was previously arrested for killing their father. Okay? Killing their father. A climate change narrative pushed by the left-wing media following the latest wildfires affecting the United States has imploded following news that an arson suspect has been arrested, and their past is absolutely horrifying. The Old Trails fire in Spokane County, Washington, ignited on Saturday across parts of Spokane, Washington. The fires rapidly expanded under strong winds, prompting widespread level 3 get-out-now evacuations that forced 64,000 people and residents to flee their homes. By evening, multiple homes have been burned, with videos posted to social media showing the devastation of more than 700 homes in total burned to the ground. Early coverage, including CNN's live updates, ABC's updates, CBS's updates, and MS Now's updates, all said, quote, climate crisis expands to Washington state. Now, that kind of language, again, associated with all the fires and not even thinking that it could be arson, just went out there and it was just parroted all across every single media landscape. Climate activists and social media accounts ran with the climate narrative as well. But the news that should shock absolutely no one, the corporate media completely got everything wrong. On August 3rd, the Spokane County Sheriff's Office arrested 37-year-old man named Aaron Farinacci on suspicion of first-degree arson. Farinacci was detained for a short amount of time by authorities, but then on Saturday was released for lack of evidence. However, he was rearrested the next day when authorities could actually link him to the fire conclusively. But when one learns of Farinacci's previous crimes, it's clear he should never have been let out of jail to begin with. As Fox News previously reported back in 2010, he killed his own father following a fight over doing dishes. That's right. The crime happened outside Farinacci's parents' home in Mesa, Arizona. Farinacci later tried to kill himself by shooting himself in the chest, but survived. Mesa police found Aaron Farinacci blocks from his parents' house with a gunshot wound to his chest. He was in critical condition on Tuesday. This is from a report in 2010. Police say the incident began just after 6 p.m. when Aaron Farinacci argued with his father, Jeffrey, and they ran into his parents' bedroom and then locked the door. Jeffrey Farinacci got a key and unlocked the door, and his wife then heard 2 shots. She told police her son pointed the gun at her and as she went to investigate. Police said Aaron Farinacci had gotten his father's handgun from the nightstand, and Jeffrey Farinacci was shot twice and died on the way to the hospital. TV 11 reported on Tuesday that the argument was over cleaning dishes. He was convicted in 2012 of manslaughter, so not even first-degree murder, manslaughter, and aggravated assault for killing his father. But he was released from prison in 2020. So let's think about that. 700 homes burned to the ground because some asshole judge, some dipshit clemency board, parole board in Arizona was too lenient, and a warden too lenient in the Arizona jails, and they took him, and he only served 8 years for murdering his own father. Was let out of jail in 2020, I'm assuming moved up to Washington State or whatever, and for whatever reason, burned down Eastern Washington and 700 homes. So who's responsible for that? The warden, the jail, the clemency board, the parole board, the judge that let him out and gave him a soft sentence. Do you understand the chain of events that can happen? We've seen it so many times. Look at Irina Zaruskis in North Carolina, in Charlotte. And she was killed by that monster. Why? Because a magistrate judge, which isn't even a real judge, decided to let him out after 14 prior convictions and arrests. We've got to hold the judges accountable. I mean, here's a crazy statistic. 42 states have a law that if you go to a restaurant and you get drunk and you go out in your car and you kill somebody, they will hold the restaurant people accountable as an accessory. But yet, these murderers and arsonists and rapists and every other, crazy bastard can be let out on the street by these judges. Nothing. No accountability. That's why we need My Judges Act. We need to have that put into Congress at some point. And that would hold them as an accessory to whatever the crime is. So that means that all those people I listed, all the people in everyone, the clemency board, the patrol, the warden, the judges, they all should be charged with accessory to arson. Whatever the crime is they commit, whether it's rape, accessory to rape, whether it's murder, accessory to murder. And guess what? Judges, clemency boards, parole boards, wardens, all these different people, they're not going to continue this behavior because they will have consequences to that behavior. They will have accountability. The only way we are going to make America, and for that matter, that can be a law in any country, but the only way you're going to make this country safer is to hold the people accountable that are supposed to make it safer. So I wanted to kind of cover this story and lay it all out so that you can see the chain of events that led to these 700 people losing their homes. Sad. Pray for them. Pray for them. Those are my thoughts. What are yours? Put them down in the comments below. We'll see you in the next one.